The stars were quiet that night, but something out there was calling for help. It started with a signal, weak, broken, and barely understandable. The message came from deep space, far beyond where any human ship had ever gone. No one knew what sent it. It wasn't from Earth or any of the colonies or even a known alien race. It just appeared. "We are stranded," the message said, over and over in a loop. Sometimes the words were clearer than others. Sometimes they were buried under static. But those 5 words were enough to make people stop and listen. At first, most ignored it. The galaxy was full of strange voices. Some were old echoes bouncing through space, some were natural signals from dying stars, and some were traps set by species that didn't like visitors. Still, someone had to check. The United Earth Space Command debated for weeks. Should they send a ship? Was it worth risking lives for a voice in the dark? Many thought no. Humans had their own problems. Political tensions, supply shortages, and conflicts with other species. Why waste time on something that might not matter? But then, a small group of scientists and explorers stepped forward. They weren't soldiers. They weren't diplomats. They were just people who believed in helping others, even if it meant going into the unknown. They called themselves the Weiss Liberty, an old survey ship refitted for long-range travel. The crew was small, 6 people with different skills, different backgrounds, and one shared idea, that if someone was asking for help, you didn't just turn away. Alex Monroe was the captain. He used to salvage ships lost in deep space. He didn't talk much, but when he did, people listened. Lena Torres was the linguist trying to crack the message's code. Raj Patel kept the engines running. Kara Evans studied life, what it looked like, how it worked, and whether it could survive in places humans couldn't. Derek Boone flew the ship, and Nina Cho made sure everyone stayed alive. They didn't have fancy weapons or military support. They had a mission, a ship, and each other. When the go-ahead finally came, most of the galaxy didn't care. The big powers were too busy with politics. The smaller species didn't see why humans would risk their lives for a voice in the void. Some even laughed at them. "They'll come back empty-handed," one diplomat said, "or not come back at all." But Alex and his crew didn't care about opinions. They had a job to do. The journey took months. The coordinates were farther than any human had traveled before. The Liberty moved through uncharted space, past dead stars and silent planets. Every day, Lena worked on the message, trying to understand more than just, "We are stranded." She played the same sounds, over and over, hoping for a clue. Raj patched up the ship whenever something broke, which was often. Derek joked about flying into the end of the universe. Kara stared out the window, wondering what kind of life they'd find, if any. Nina watched them all, making sure no one cracked under the pressure. And Alex? He just kept flying toward the signal. As the days passed, the crew began to wonder if they were chasing ghosts. Maybe the message was old. Maybe whoever sent it was already gone. Maybe they were wasting their lives chasing silence. But then, one morning, the sensors picked up something, not a planet, not a star, not a ghost. A faint blip on the edge of detection. They were close. The silence outside felt heavier now, like space itself was holding its breath, and somewhere ahead, someone, or something, was waiting. The Liberty kept flying deeper into the dark. Days turned into weeks, then months. The stars outside looked the same every day, cold, distant, quiet. But inside the ship, life went on. The crew settled into their routines. Raj spent most of his time in the engine room, fixing things that weren't broken just yet but would be soon. Kara worked in the lab, studying samples they had brought from earlier missions. Lena sat at her desk for hours, replaying the signal over and over, trying to understand more than just those 5 words. "We are stranded." Derek flew the ship like it was part of him. He joked a lot, mostly to keep everyone from getting too serious. Nina watched them all, making sure no one got sick or lost their mind. And Alex? He made the hard calls and tried not to show how much this mission weighed on him. They talked sometimes about what they might find. Was it a ship? A planet? Or maybe something else entirely? I bet it's a ship, Derek said one evening over dinner. Big, old, floating in silence. Or maybe, it's a colony, Kara added. Somebody got stuck out here a long time ago. Lena shook her head. No, the signal is repeating too regularly. That means it's automated. Could be a distress beacon left behind. Raj shrugged. Could also be a trap. That silenced the table for a moment. Everyone knew space wasn't safe. Some species like to set traps for others. Fake distress, calls, fake planets, even fake stars. If someone fell for it, they were never heard from again. But Alex believed in doing the right thing, even when it was dangerous. As the days passed, the crew started to feel the strain. Being stuck on a small ship with the same people for months did that to you. Tempers flared. Small arguments became big ones. Sleep didn't come easy for some, but they held together. Then one morning, everything changed. Lena was up early, listening to the signal again when she noticed something new. A second voice buried under the static. She called the others in fast. Listen, she said, playing the message again. They leaned in close. There it was, a faint whisper beneath the main. Loop of voice, not machine-like, not cold, something alive. It only lasted a second before fading back into noise, but it was enough. They're still alive, Lena whispered. Alex stood up straighter. How far? Raj checked the readings. Not far. Maybe 2 days at full speed. For the first time since the mission began, hope felt real. They pushed forward, faster now. Excitement filled the ship. They were close. Then, as they neared the final coordinates, the sensors picked up something strange. Nothing. Just empty space. They scanned everything. No ships, no planets, no signs of life. What the hell? Derek muttered. We followed. The signal all this way and there's nothing here? Lena frowned. Unless it's cloaked. Raj nodded. Could be hiding. Some alien tech makes ships invisible to normal scans. Alex made a decision. We go in slow, full scan mode. Look for anything unusual. They searched for hours, nothing. Just stars and silence. Then finally a ping, a faint reading from the radar. Something was out there. Drifting. Hidden. They found it almost by accident. An object barely visible, wrapped in darkness like it didn't want to be seen. It was a ship, broken, silent, dying. And somewhere inside, the voice that had called for help still waited. The alien ship looked like it had seen better days. It was long, thin, and covered in strange markings that glowed faintly, even though most of the power seemed to be gone. Parts of the hull were cracked. Wires stuck out like broken bones. It floated, silently in space like a ghost drifting without direction. Alex stood at the front of the Liberty, looking at it through the main window. The rest of the crew watched from behind him. We go inside, he said finally. No one argued. They suited up and took the small shuttle across. As they got closer, they saw how bad things really were. The outer shell was damaged in places. Some lights flickered, others were dead. They docked carefully. The connection was weak, but it held. Inside, the air was cold. Thin mist drifted through, the halls like fog on an early morning street. The walls pulsed with soft blue light like veins under skin. Strange symbols lined the floor and ceiling. This place is alive, Kara whispered. Lena tried to read the signs. Some of this makes sense now. The message wasn't just we are stranded. It was help us before we die. Derek moved slowly down the hallway, gun in hand. I don't like this. If they're still alive, where are they? Then they heard it. A sound. Low, soft, almost like breathing. They followed it to a large room filled with pods. Inside each pod was a being unlike anything they had ever seen. They were tall and thin with pale glowing skin. Their bodies looked fragile. Long limbs, eyes too big for their heads. Faint light shimmered under their skin like fireflies trapped beneath paper. There were 6 of them. all asleep or unconscious. They're not moving, Nina said, checking the pods, but they're still alive. Raj looked at the control panel nearby. Most of it was dark, but some buttons still blinked. Power's low. Life support is barely holding. Kara stepped forward. If we leave now, they won't last much. Longer, Nina nodded. We might have hours, maybe less. Silence filled the room. Alex looked at his crew. They were tired, low on supplies, far from home, and now they had a choice. Help these beings, or turn back and go home. He didn't hesitate. We helped them. That was all he needed to say. They worked fast. Raj connected the Liberty's power to the alien ship's core. Derek searched for emergency supplies. Lena tried to translate more of the language. Kara and Nina checked the pods, trying to find a way to wake the aliens safely. Hours passed. Then one of the pods made a noise, a hiss, a click. The glass opened. One of the beings stirred. Its eyes opened slowly. They were deep and dark, filled with something ancient and tired. It looked at Alex. He didn't move. The alien blinked once. Then again. It raised a shaking hand. Alex reached. Out their gloves touched. A moment passed. Then the alien spoke, its voice soft and rough. Thank you. The word came through the translator broken, but clear enough. They had been found. They had been saved. And for the first time in a long time, they were not alone. The alien, the one who had spoken first, was named Taliora. That was what Lena figured out after hours of listening to their language and matching sounds to names. She wasn't sure if it was a full name or just part of one, but for now that was enough. Taliora was weak like the others, but she could move. And she could talk slowly, through the translator. She told them how her people had been betrayed. They were called the Thrixians, a peaceful species that traveled between stars, helping others when they could. They weren't fighters. They didn't build weapons or warships. They built homes, libraries, and ships meant for travel, not war. But not everyone saw peace as strength. A rival species, one that feared the Thrixians' growing influence, attacked without warning. They boarded the ship, damaged the systems, and left them drifting in silence. No power, no way to call for help. Just time. Taliora and 5 others were the only ones left. They did not want us dead, she said, voice barely above a whisper. They wanted us forgotten. Lena translated what she could. Kara helped Nina check on the others. Raj worked non-stop to keep both ships running. Derek kept watch, always scanning for signs of danger. And Alex? He tried to decide what came next. Helping. The Thrixians was already costing them. The Liberty was low on fuel. The life support systems were working harder than ever. If something broke, there wouldn't be much they could do about it. Still, no one complained. Then, late one night, or what passed for night in space, Raj found something strange. He called Alex to the engine room. This doesn't make sense, Raj said, pointing at a screen. We're being watched. Alex looked at the data. A fleet was approaching. Fast. Can you tell who it is? Raj shook, his head. No flags, no signals, just ships. Minutes later, the message came. It was loud and clear, broadcasted directly to the Liberty. You are trespassing. Surrender the survivors and leave this sector. No name, no rank, just a demand. Lena worked fast to trace the signal. They're the same ones who attacked the Thrixians. Derek cursed under his breath. Of course they are. Alex stood still thinking. They were outnumbered, outgunned. There was no way they could fight, but he also knew that handing over the Thrixians would mean death. We're not giving them up, he said. Derek crossed his arms. That's noble and all, but we don't have a plan B. We make one, Alex said. They moved quickly. Raj rerouted every bit of power he could to the engines and shields. Lena tried to send a distress call to Earth, but the signal was blocked. Kara and Nina moved the Thrixians into the safest part of the Liberty. Derek got ready to fly the ship out of danger. The enemy ships closed in. Then the first shot hit. The Liberty shook hard. Lights flickered. An alarm screamed. "They're locking onto us," Derek shouted. "Get us out of here," Alex ordered. "I need a few more seconds." Another hit. This time something cracked. Raj ran to the back. Sparks flew from the main line. He grabbed a tool and started fixing it by hand. Come on," he muttered. Kara rushed to help. Then another blast. Rocked the ship. Raj was thrown backward, his arm bent wrong. Smoke filled the air. Nina was there in a second, pulling him away. "He's alive," she said. "But he's hurt bad." There was no time to stop. "Hold him together," Alex said. "We're getting out of this." Derek pushed the engines to full. The Liberty jumped into hyperspace, dragging the broken Thrixian ship with them. Silence returned. For now. But they had made an enemy, and enemies never forget. The Liberty came out of hyperspace far from where they had started. The jump had been fast, rough, and unplanned. Now they floated in silence near the edge of a neutral zone, space that belonged to no one and was watched by everyone. They were safe for now, but they were also alone. Raj was lying on a cot in the medbay, his arm wrapped tight. Nina sat beside him, checking his breathing every few minutes. He had saved them back there. Without him rerouting power at the last second, the jump wouldn't have worked. They would all be dead. Kara stood nearby, watching the readings on a screen. "He'll live," she said quietly, "but he needs rest." Alex didn't say anything. He just nodded. Outside, the Thrixian ship drifted beside them, still damaged, but holding together. Inside, Taliora and the others were recovering slowly. They were weak but alive. Derek sat at the pilot's chair, staring out the window. "We're in deep this time," he said. "You know that, right?" Alex leaned against the wall. "Yeah, we just made enemies with a whole fleet. No backup, no plan, just us." "I know." Derek turned to face him. "Then what now? We can't keep running forever." Lena walked in, holding a small data pad. "I sent out a message before we jumped," she said. "It might have gotten through." "Might have. It was blocked, but I boosted the signal. There's a chance Earth got it." "That's something," Kara said. But even if Earth had heard, no one knew how they'd respond. The UESC had already warned them. This mission was not officially supported. If things went wrong, no one was coming to help. Back on Earth, the news spread fast. The story of the Liberty and its crew became a topic of debate across the planet. Some called them heroes, others called them fools, a few called them traitors, for risking human lives for aliens. Politicians argued on screens. Scientists wrote reports. News anchors asked questions nobody could answer. Did humanity really have the right to interfere? Some leaders wanted to pull all independent missions. Others wanted to send more ships like the Liberty to show the galaxy who humans really were. But most people didn't care about politics. They cared about the 6 people who had gone into the dark and chosen to do the right thing. And then something unexpected happened. Other species started talking. Not just about the attack. Not just about the humans, but about the choice the Liberty had made. In many parts of the galaxy, compassion was seen as weakness. Survival mattered more than kindness. Power ruled over mercy. So when word spread that a small human ship had risked everything to save dying strangers, some species listened. Some were confused, some were curious. A few were afraid, because if one ship could do that, what else could humans do? Taliora, still healing, recorded a message in her own language and let Lena translate it. She spoke of the humans who had found her and her people when no one else would. She told of the fight they had faced, of the sacrifice they had made, of the hope they had brought. That message traveled farther than anyone expected, and somewhere in the quiet corners of space, someone heard it. Someone who had never thought much of humans before, and they began to wonder, what kind of species risks everything just to help strangers? The message spread like ripples in water. Taliora's words reached places the Liberty had never been. They traveled through trade routes, across diplomatic channels, and into the quiet corners of space where few ever spoke of Earth. Some ignored it. Others listened closely. Among the Thrixians, the message sparked something new. A spark of hope. A reason to believe that they were not alone anymore. That someone, somewhere, still believed in helping others, even when it cost them. Back on the Liberty, life slowly returned to normal. Raj was healing. He could move his arm again, though it hurt sometimes. Nina kept a close eye on him. Kara stayed busy studying the Thrixian biology, trying to understand how they survived so long without power. Lena worked on translating more of their language, building a bridge between two very different species. Derek flew the ship, even though there wasn't much to fly toward just yet. And Alex? He watched the stars, waiting for what came next. Then one day something changed. A signal came in. Not from Earth, not from the enemy fleet, but from somewhere else. It was short. We heard your voice. No name, no location. Just those 5 words. Lena saw it first. She called the others in fast. It's not from any known source, she said. But whoever sent this, they know what we did. Kara frowned. You think it's another stranded crew? Maybe, Lena said. Or maybe someone wants to talk. Alex looked at the screen. We should answer. So they did. They sent a simple reply. We are listening. Days passed, then weeks. The Liberty stayed near the edge of the neutral zone, waiting, fixing what they could, healing, talking with Taliora and the other Thrixians. More messages came. Some were curious. Some were cautious. One came from a small species called the Virex, miners who lived on asteroids and rarely trusted anyone. They asked questions about humans, about why the Liberty had helped strangers. Lena answered as best she could. Another message came from a trader group who had heard about the attack. They offered parts, food, and fuel, no payment needed. We see what you did, the message read. We want to help. That surprised everyone. For the first time, humanity wasn't just seen as another species trying to survive. They were seen as something different, something worth watching. On Earth, the debate continued. Some leaders still thought the mission was reckless. Others started talking about sending more ships, not warships, not diplomats, just people willing to listen, to help, to explore. Not all species liked this change. Some saw it as dangerous. If humans could inspire others just by being kind, what would happen next? Would others start acting the same way? Would peace become stronger than fear? One night, Taliora sat with Alex in the main room. Her body was almost healed. Her eyes were brighter now. You are strange, she said through the translator. Alex smiled. Is that bad? She shook her head. No, it is different. She looked out the window at the stars. My people have met many species. Most only care about themselves, but you risked everything for us. Alex didn't say anything at first, then he nodded. That's just who we are. Taliora watched him for a moment. Then she stood up. I will tell our people what you did, she said. And I will tell them to listen. And with that, she walked away. Outside, the stars shined, quietly. Somewhere out there, more voices waited, and now, thanks to the Liberty, humanity was finally being heard. The Liberty floated in quiet space, surrounded by stars that had seen 1,000 stories but never told one. Life aboard had changed. Raj could walk again, though he limped sometimes. He still spent time in the engine room, fixing things before they broke. Kara kept studying the Thrixians, learning how their bodies worked, how they healed, and what made them who they were. Lena translated more every day. She built a real dictionary now, Thrixian to human, human to Thrixian. Taliora helped her, slowly teaching her not just words but meaning, culture, thought. Derek flew the ship like always, but now he had places to go, messages to answer, people to meet. And Alex? He watched it all happen. He didn't say much, but when he did, people listened. The galaxy was listening too. Taliora's message had spread farther than anyone expected. Other species reached out, not all of them friendly, but some curious. A few even sent ships to watch from a distance, trying to understand what kind of humans these were. Some called them fools, others called them dangerous, because if one small ship could change minds, what would happen if more followed? Back on Earth, opinions were still divided. Some leaders wanted to shut down independent missions like the Liberty. They said it was reckless, that humans couldn't afford to keep risking lives for strangers. But others saw something different. They saw hope. They saw proof that humanity could be more than war, politics, and survival. They saw a reason to keep going. Then, one morning, a new signal came in. It wasn't from Earth, not from the UESC, not from any known power. It was simple. We need help. That was all. No name, no location. Just a call. In the dark, Lena brought it to Alex right away. "This could be a trap," she said. Alex nodded. "Could be. But we're going anyway, aren't we?" He looked at the crew. Derek sat in the pilot's chair, waiting. Kara stood near the lab, ready to learn. Raj checked the engines, making sure they'd hold. Nina packed medical supplies, without being asked. And Lena? She smiled a little. "We're going," Alex said. They didn't argue. They didn't need to. They knew what they were doing wasn't easy. It wasn't safe, but it mattered. Out among the stars, someone was calling, and they were the only ones willing to answer. As the Liberty prepared for launch, a final message arrived, sent through unknown channels, signed by no one. It read, "You showed us what kindness looks like. We are listening now." Nobody knew who sent it. Maybe it was another species. Maybe it was someone watching from afar. Whoever it was, they understood that humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the richest, or most advanced. But they were something else. They were stubborn. They were brave. And sometimes when everyone else turned away, they were the only ones left who still cared. The Liberty left orbit slowly, its lights fading against the black sky. Ahead of it, the unknown. Behind it, a story already spreading across the stars. And somewhere, in the silence between worlds, a new voice whispered. Not in fear, not in anger, but in hope.